Hello, everybody, and welcome to Silent Podcast, the place where everything but silent. I'm your host, Isaiah, and we are back after our very long break for the Big Brother review series. Yes, we took a break for the holidays, but we're now back to talk about the rest of the seasons. We got from Big Brother 24 to Big Brother 14, so we accomplished a lot, but it's time to keep the game rolling. I have a very fun panel here to talk about season 13. We have, of course, returning from the last time he was on, Josh. Josh, what's going on?
Hey everybody, excited to talk about one of my favorite players, Rachel Riley, and her season, Big Brother 13.
All right, and also we have for the first time in a while, but the first time on this series, Cheyenne. Cheyenne, what's going on?
Hey y'all, I am looking forward to talking about this season. It's been a wild 2 days.
Now, I don't know what season this was for you guys. I'm going to ask you, but fun fact for me, this was technically my first season of Big Brother. I did not watch it from beginning to end. I started from the return competition where Brendan actually came in, and I was like, "What am I getting myself into?" But I stuck with it, and I was confused, but I was very entertained. You feel me? So, for you guys, I mean, how do you guys feel about Big Brother 13? It's been a very long time since the season was aired. Obviously, a lot of, I guess you could say, iconic figures, but also like kind of some flop players in here. How do you guys feel about this cast overall, Josh?
This cast was pretty good. I had a lot of faves. This was like my fifth season of Big Brother, so I had a lot of people who I knew from just watching them in the past. So I was really excited to see this when I was I think I was probably into high school, I want to say, or leaving high school. Either way, it was about 5 years into my Big Brother watch. So yeah, I was pretty excited to watch it.
Okay. And I think I hear a ring. I'm not sure which one. um,
Yeah, I hear it, but I don't know
oh,
what it is.
it was Josh again. But yeah, how about you,
Mhm.
Cheyenne? How do you feel about this season? It's been a while. How do you feel about it?
Okay, so the thing is, I started watching Big Brother at 16 live because okay, long story short, I moved in with my grandma. First time only watching 3 channels, and so Big Brother was really interesting. So I went from like 16 and then I started watching like the best ones. So it was like 10, 14, uh 12, and 13 was somewhere in there, but it wasn't my favorite. So
Mm-hmm.
this season, it was like I loved parts of it. Like I love when people are going against each other. I like that there were a lot of two sides of the house and that people were trying to work with the other side. They weren't being very stubborn and stuff. I'm glad that there were a couple of ties in this season. I love that the final vote was like very close. So I loved all those things. Hated most of the people.
Yeah, this season is definitely like the definition of like heroes and villains. Just some fun facts, real quick. Like, this is the first time that they've tried to do like a returnees versus newbies concept. And they also did the concept of duos. This wasn't the first time because technically they did it back when they did the wreck of what season was that? Big Brother 9, I think. But yeah, this season was all over the place, but I think it gave us the perfect balance of mess because I don't know about y'all. I don't think anyone in this cast is really a great player. There are some standouts, but there's a lot of mistakes made on all sides of this cast. But so I just wanted to break down real quick before we get to like twists and everything. This cast, one of the first things that you're going to find out walking is that it's a returning cast with newbies. And some of the returnees are the notable people. So first of all, you got Brenchel, which is Rachel and Brendan. You have Jeff and Jordan, which at the time was like America's favorite showmans in Big Brother's lore. And then you got Dick and Danielle, which was the the dad and daughter dynamic. It was crazy to watch on TV. So there was a whole lot of fan service here, I think. I think Rachel and Brendan might have been out of left field, but I wasn't watching Big Brother previous seasons before this. But How do you guys feel about the vets that they chose for the selection process? I remember in the promo for this, like they actually like teased at like a Renegades, a Chill Town, even some season 6. I think it was Janelle and someone else. It might have been Howie or Kaser. But how did we feel about the returnees that they actually got for the season?
Being that season 8 was my first season and Evil Dick was like my fave, I was excited. Evil Dick was probably my favorite player at the time. I say at the time, it's a very important detail. But he was definitely one of my faves. So I was very excited to see him. And Danny Donato was one of my faves too. So very excited to see the whole cast. The only ones I wasn't really too excited about was Jeff and Jordan. I didn't really care for those two in their season. I didn't care for them in this season too much. Jordan had one cool moment. We'll probably get to it. But I wasn't a big Jeff fan by any means. So,
how about
That
you, Cheyenne?
part. I was very excited to see Danny and Evil Dick. I was ecstatic to see Rachel and Brendan, though I was less ecstatic to see them later on. And the number one thing I was like, how many times am I going to see this ugly couple? You know, Jeff has always been a tyrant. Jordan is like fucking so slow and stupid and hypocritical and useless. I'm still upset that she's a winner, and I love that Evil Dick forgot that she was a winner that very first episode.
oh my God.
Mess. Okay, so just to break down some of these duos outside of the returnees, the newbie duos, right? We have Adam and Dominic, very random, but Adam and Dominic's together. Cassie and Shelly, Lawan and Kalia, and then Portia and Keith. Now these, like, obviously they got to pick their partners. These were also out of left field. I remember Keith very attracted to Portia at the beginning, so that's why he picked her. Obviously, they didn't really work out at the end of the day, but they stuck together. I think Kalia and Lawan loved each other's vibe, so they picked each other. And then Cassie and Shelly and Adam and Dominic were very random, especially Adam and Dominic. I think they just kind of like were like the last people out, so they picked each other. But I mean, did these newbies think this through, or did they just kind of run to the first thing that they wanted to do? Cheyenne, how do you feel about them?
I mean, it very much looked like they didn't really have time to, think about it. It looked like people were just grabbing whoever, and you can't really say no because, like, Portia tried to say no. I think Kalia was chosen by Lawson, and she was just like, okay. And then I think Cassie and Shelly, they were like, we're Southern girls. And they were both like those boy girl types. So they joined together. And honestly, this season, maybe it's because it's the first one, and it probably should have been the last one that vets came in, because they showed right there that there was no way that vets ever would have the disadvantage. No matter how much newbies say that they want to stick together, we've seen time after season that vets are literally only at an advantage. That's how Coco Nicole Franzel won. That's how Cody Calafieri, whatever, won. I mean, it's just like they maybe tried to turn in vets to like elevate the season and have a lot of fun. And it was fun, but it was just the show. It was just the obvious like vets win over everything.
And it's interesting that you say that. Just thinking back to even the seasons where a returner didn't win. I mean, I think of Jesse coming back for 11. I mean, he was pretty dominant. Even OTT, which we're going to talk about very soon on this podcast. Jason, he ran that season. He got second place. We can look at Paul. We can look at I'm trying to think. There's plenty of seasons all around. Obviously, the season after this with Dan, it's just something about returnees in Big Brother that the newbies are too afraid to go against them. It seems like in most of these seasons. So I really do agree with you. I wish they kind of stuck with their sentiment of like, all right, newbie strong. We're not going to work with the vets. But obviously, there were some weak factors. But how did you feel about the duos as well, Josh?
I feel, as far as the vets are concerned and the newbies not wanting to go against the vets in this case, we don't know who America likes if we're those duos. If we're in the house, we our perception of these newbies or these vets that are coming back into the game, we're probably thinking America loves them. And so I see why they probably wouldn't want to turn against them so quickly, or they might have some hesitations turning against them. As far as the duos are concerned, the newbies, they could have done a little more strategizing when it came to it. I will say I think they did the best with the information that they had. You know, they didn't really know what the game was going to entail with the vets, you know, in week 2 or week 3. So I think them pairing up together, they maybe thought it wasn't going to be as harsh or direct, you know, as like, you know, you're staying up there against your duo. But I think they did the best they could to pick their partners. So
I disagree. I disagree heavily.
This is why Cheyenne's here.
The newbies together were like every female alliance ever created. In front of each other, they were like, yeah, newbie strong. In front of each other, and then half the team would be like, yeah, I actually really like Jeff and Jordan. That's Shelly's number one thing. Adam would say, I actually really like Jeff. It's like they never actually tried to band together on a serious level, which was very disappointing.
Yeah, I think further down, they definitely did not try. I think initially, though, they did their best, but it definitely got a little cloudy, disconvoluted about week 2, which wasn't long, but yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I feel like Danielle kind of whipped them back together, but then she started losing them. So
before we get to that, the last thing I'm going to talk about, I like to dedicate a portion of every podcast to the twist of the season, just in case I go off of order and everything. The twist with this season, obviously, we talked about the duos, we talked about returnees. This is actually pretty twisted for like the golden age of Big Brother that people like to call it. We have the golden key twist out here that basically lets a house guest, the house guest got to compete for this advantage, and then if you got this key, you are safe until jury. And we saw Portia get that. We also had the previous evicted house guest, which is basically a return comp where we saw Brendan come back into the game. And then we also had Pandora's Box, everyone's favorite Pandora's Box, coming here. At this time, they were doing it a couple times, and they were like, let's do it again. So they brought Pandora's Box. So how are the twists this season good, or are they just crack? Like what were they thinking here, guys? Like, did Big Brother get the twist right? How do you feel, Josh?
The twists seem a little overpowered, especially the timing sometimes of these twists, specifically week 8. With the duos twist in the golden key, which I guess it didn't really exist in week 8. So let me kind of backtrack a bit. I'm kind of with Danielle when she says she didn't want to just like sit for like a whole month like doing nothing, because she had the golden key and she couldn't really compete or anything and actually be in the game. So I definitely think the twist took people out of the game longer than it probably should have. So that's my thoughts.
How about you, Cheyenne?
I haven't seen a good twist on Big Brother ever. So no, none of these twists were good.
Not even Battle of the Block?
Hell no.
Boy. My God.
Terrible.
Please.
Making someone nominate 4 people is just outrageous. Like, what are you doing? It's like when you have to save half the house and you feel like you made a good alliance, and then they vote you out because you're power hungry. It's like, these things are never good. And I hate Pandora's Box.
Listen, I also just saw this. I just felt the need to put this on the screen. I'm so sorry. I usually do not go off script, but I just had to show this amazing photo of our own Josh Calhoun with the winner of the season, Rachel Riley. So I just saw that. I just needed to post that. I'm so sorry that I never break up the conversations or anything. I just had that great picture, Josh. I just had to show that.
Baby,
yeah.
She looks so different.
She does.
Okay, guys. So let's start talking about this season. So we basically set it up. We talked about our duos. So obviously, this is a crazy first week going into, because it's looking like it's going to be vets versus newbies. The vets kind of have a stronghold on the season. Obviously, Dick is kind of like the grandiose leader of the vets group. I think all the groups kind of respond and respect him. I think Jeff would be like the second in command here, but it's really Dick kind of just running the show over here. He's honestly doing very well originally. I think he put in a lot of groundwork for the vets at first. But a lot of people like to look at this first week and they're like, look, if Dick was still in the game, he would have ran it, mastermind. Look, I understand, and obviously we're going to get to him, the reason why he had to leave, but I think a lot of people like to use this as credibility that he's such a great player. But it's like, look, we've seen Dick in his original season, and he kind of had a cool, calm, collected manner at first as well. But if he ever has to face adversity or some kind of drama, he's going to snap. And that's not going to fly a second time. They're not going to be some sort of crazy person willing to go on the block, and there's no America's favorite player. There's just not all these extra factors. So I don't think he would have ran the season, but I do think he would have did fairly well early on, at least. Obviously Dick did have to leave due to health concerns and all that stuff, so he had to go off the show. But at the time, the vets won the HOH. Who were they originally targeting? I remember. Let me just check my notes real quick. Rachel, yes.
Oh.
I was going to say Rachel had HOH and a veto. Obviously, Brendan got the veto. Portia and Keith were originally the nominees. Dick did have to leave, but the elimination still carried on, and we lost Keith. So I don't know what Keith was thinking. We can talk about him real quick. Keith. Well, actually, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about Dick first, real quick. Do we feel like Dick had a good chance this season to really run things, or was he just this is just the beginning of the season? It's all smog. Like how do we feel about this, guys? Josh.
I personally don't really have an opinion, I guess, because it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. I imagine he would have burnt out towards the middle. But maybe getting Danny on his side, maybe she wouldn't have been so easily trying to pit people together. Maybe they wouldn't have seen that as blatantly as they did. But honestly, I can't really see him winning this season. Not with Jordan crying every other week. I just couldn't see it happening.
And Rachel was crying too.
Yeah, but she can get over it.
Yeah, no, I don't think the same game would have happened had Dick still been in the house. I don't know what that outcome would look like. I don't know if Rachel would have won. I think a newbie probably could have taken it. So I think Dick would have gotten bored at some point with the vets, especially with the Jordan crying, the Rachel crying. Brendan's always just down for whatever Rachel needs. So it would have been a little more complicated, I think, had Dick stayed.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah, I can definitely see Dick and Danielle forming kind of a counter group because Dick was getting Adam in. Danny seems like she was going to be attracted to Dominic. And so it's no one was really talking to Kalia. Portia feels saved by Rachel. So it's they could have, I don't know. It could have been a little stronger of a side.
Could have been interesting. And I do think Danny also didn't like Rachel or at times Jeff as well. So oh yeah. But I did want to bring up obviously this is honestly in some people's minds the worst alliance in Big Brother history. I'm trying to remember their names real quick. Was it the Regulators?
The
Regulators. So it was Keith, Cassie, Dom, and Lawan, the Regulators. They were trying to be the next brigade. We're coming fresh off of 12. We got to we got to kill it. This is the Alliance season. We're going to run it. They had no plan whatsoever. They were just in the house. They weren't really coordinating things. I think Cassie and Dom had a good head on their shoulders. But my God, what the hell is happening here? Keith I don't know what he was doing. He just was trying to make. I remember his original game plan was like, I was going to work with all the ladies and make an alliance called Keith's Angels, but now I got to work with these guys. And he tried to make a showmance with Portia. She wasn't really vibing with it, and then they started arguing. This alliance, I don't know if they really had chemistry. I just think that it was just made out of pure necessity. I think they were just all in the same room, and this is it. This is the alliance. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Keith obviously also has a really hard teardown. I think he's a part of the regulators. So the regulators honestly were like the vets' number one like target group because they were just like blatantly anti-vet, while you have people like Shelly and Adam just kind of sitting there in the middle, and Portia by default sitting there in the middle, willing to like, ride it out and see what happens. So what's wrong with Keith? Like, is Keith even worth talking about too long, guys? Or how do we feel about Keith?
He did it to himself. I feel like I don't understand what he was trying to accomplish that first week. Yeah, no, I don't. There's not much to really talk about Keith here. At least I'm in my opinion.
So. I don't think so.
So there's two things I feel here. So one, when they announced that the pairs have to go against each other, both Keith and Portia was like, all right, let's get them out, like Keith wanted Portia out, Portia wanted Keith out, and then either one of them could stay until jury. So when Rachel said that she was getting Keith out, she said it was because he was a big guy, that he could be like a threat physically, even though he like hadn't done anything. But I also am like, racial bias question mark?
Yeah.
Because the Black people in this season are mistreated terribly.
I mean, is that a Big Brother season if they're not mistreated terribly? That's the real question.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. It's I'm going to kind of echo what Josh said. I just don't really know what his plan was. I think he was more equipped to play the individual game, but I mean, even with that, I don't know if he actually does well in that portion. It's unfortunate, but it seems like he came in with the objective of there's ladies in the house, I need to get with the girls. Yeah, it just didn't work out. So
I mean, he definitely wasn't a good player. That's not what I said.
Also, I totally forgot to say the golden key twist. Obviously, since Keith is eliminated, Portia is given the golden key, and so on and so forth. But yes, Portia's our first golden key person, which honestly I feel like plays a big part of her game because now she's in a position where she gets to float in the middle, and I think she is the first of the newbies that the vets are like, all right, let's try to work them in with our collective. And I remember Rachel specifically trying to do a lot of work on Portia and Danny, but they were really just trying to bring Portia in the fold and make her feel comfortable. Okay, so we can talk about week 2, which is Cassie's week. Obviously, we see Jordan win HOH. Originally, she puts up Adam and Dom, even though Rachel was really pushing for Cassie and Shelly to go up because Rachel did not like Cassie. But that still was going on. I believe Dominic was the veto. They're safe, and then Jordan's like, all right, we're gonna put Cassie and Shelly up. Cassie and Rachel did not like each other. They were very petty towards each other, but it just didn't work out. I do want to point out that Danny, because her father left the first week, is starting to trying to play her own game a little bit now that she's not tied down by someone. She's kind of trying to play both sides. She's starting to really vibe with people like Portia and Kalia, but at this time, her loyalties are still with the veterans. I also want to say that Danny is starting to mess with a little bit with Dominic. They're kind of getting flirty. They're no showmans yet, but they're getting flirty. But Cassie, I mean, it's unfortunate to say the regulators are not good players. So there's not much to say about Cassie here either. She just honestly just gets caught in the crossfire because she's not willing to work with the veterans like some of the other newbies are, So, guys, how do we feel about Cassie or anyone in general this week of Big Brother?
So I think this is the point where I was like, and it makes sense now, but literally the first 3 people who get their golden tickets disappear. Like, so it does feel like it's just the vet's game, and everyone else is kind of a sacrifice to keep the train moving. I do think Cassie would have been like a great player. I would say that Rachel like targeted her for nothing, but then Cassie did have like a couple of confessionals where she was like, "Yeah, I stood there to make it awkward so that she know that she does not scare me," and I was like, "That sounds stupid." So I feel like pride definitely got in the way of a lot of people's gameplay this season.
How you feel, Josh?
I'd probably have to echo that. And Cassie this week, I don't know if there was much more she probably could have done to save her game. Shelly was kind of more in with the vets, just from when I was watching. And how could you not? Shelly, kind of reminds people of home, very motherly. So I probably would have kept Shelly around too. So I don't blame him for that. But I would actually agree with you, Cheyenne. I definitely think some egos got in the way of some things they probably could have accomplished, specifically Rachel. So, but it didn't matter. She won.
Okay. So the next week, it's another regulator, Dominic, who I feel like Dominic really had potential as a player. We're going to talk about him in specific, but this is when the game starts getting a little bit interesting. Obviously, we have Rachel as our HOH. Is this her second HOH? Yes. Third week, Rachel's second HOH. If you can't tell, she wins a lot of competitions this season. But this is when Danny's getting a little squirrely. Okay, she likes Dom. She's feeling him. And Don is like, look, we can make something work. Come to the dark side. This is a big problem with Danny's game because we kind of see her do this in her first season as well. And to be honest, in All Stars, Danny likes to work with people Danny likes, even if it's not good for her game. So obviously, Danny had the perfect position here. She could have just coasted to, the point where the Golden Keys were done. None of the vets were coming after her. The newbies seemed to like her. Danny, instead, is like, look, I don't want Dom to go. So this is what we're going to do. She tries to put Rachel and Brendan against Jeff and Jordan. And, I think they kept their minds open. But at the end of the day, Rachel and Brendan were like, look, it's too early to be breaking up the line. So why are we doing this? Danny, like chill out. But, she didn't really listen. And obviously, we're going to see Adam and Dominic put on the block. But this is obviously where we're going to start seeing Jeff and Jordan getting caught in the wind because they're going to start seeing Dom and Danny getting a little close. They're like, Danny, you're betraying us. And, obviously the veteran lines is like, we're done with Danny. Like, she's out of here. But Dom is eliminated here. I really like Dom. I kind of wanted Dom to return for Big Brother at some point. I thought Dom had a lot of potential as a player. I liked his idea when it came to strategy, like making the alliance, just not with the right people. I thought his social game was very well. I think he had a very charming personality. But we lose Dominic very early here. Josh, do you echo that?
So handsome. I'm so sorry. Yes, no, Dominic, I had the hugest crush on him watching this. He was just such a cutie and he was fun to watch and he was in good with my girl Danny Donato. So like, yeah, of course, like I was in with Dominic. And now look at him. Married, kids, just thriving. Like I knew I was staying the right one. So
yeah, they're definitely a better couple than like Big Brother players. Dominic was another cow to slaughter. Like, he trusted the wrong people. He went to Shelly about how he has Danny. He thought that he was like going to control it just because people were lying to him. I don't know. It was just like a little. I did have hope when him and Danny were like, we're going to turn this around. But how self-confident Danny was that she could pin the vet couples against each other while also just not like putting that personal work in. It was like, I'm not surprised Dominic left.
Now, I do want to highlight this. Someone correct me if I'm wrong because I don't 100% remember. This is a rare moment. It's a little cloudy. So when Jeff and Jordan actually caught wind on, Danny's being snaky and all that, was it Shelly? Shelly's the one who told Jeff and Jordan that, Danny was trying to like start like a rebellion, right? Or am I wrong about that?
I'm pretty sure. I think so.
Okay. So I wanted to highlight that because honestly, I think Shelly Moore, I can't wait to get to her. I think she is one of the better players in the season. And this is really like one of her starting points for her and her strategy being like a little like wishy-washy and snitching on people. But yeah, no Dom no more. Okay. So you know, it's really hard to talk about the first half of the season because it's very top heavy. Danny wins HOH. The vets are just winning HOHs left and right at the beginning half of the season, but it's interesting because Danny is like, look, you guys took Dom away from me after I don't want Dom going. It's over. You know that she already got caught trying to start a rebellion, and Danny is going to nominate Rachel and oh my god, oh yeah, she nominates Rachel and Brendan. She's tired. She's like, look, it's time to play Big Brother. It's time to shake things up. I'm going to start my own thing. She herself, she is the first vet to go against the veterans. We see Danny actually start a little collective with Kalia. She's getting very close with Kalia, but she's also trying to bring Portia in, who is semi still close with the vets, but she's really vibing with Kalia and Danny here. So we're going to see Danny make the first move against the big players, which honestly I think is one of the best factors of Danny Donato. I think we saw this in her original season in here. She's not afraid to go against the big players. You know, I think in modern day Big Brother, we don't see players willing to really go against the big players of the season, but she was willing this time to do it. So, yeah, definitely. I'm very excited here. How do we feel about Danny here? Because obviously, you know, Jordan obviously goes up, and it does not matter though. We're going to see Brendan leave here. Brendan's gone, and Rachel obviously she's going to throw a fit. She starts talking a lot of crap to Danny this season. You know, this is the start of the rivalry of Danny versus Rachel. So, Cheyenne, how do you feel about Danny's HOH this week?
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was kind of dead, and then the way she pivoted, I was like, I see why you were in All Stars. You know, I keep forgetting how conniving and strategic she is. Like, I love that she's not that type of person to preach loyalty or my word. She's literally like, all right, so it would be better for all of us if we work together. You ready? And I love that.
How are you, Josh?
I'd agree. Just first off, she was one of the nicer people to Kalia. So, I mean, she was all good in my book. But she wasn't afraid to just really dig deep. She echoed a lot of her dad's kind of energy. They weren't really too similar, but they had like the same type of energy where they're just going to go for it and with it or you weren't with it. I think she had the right idea. And I wish more people played like this, where they're like, oh, like I like these people, so I'm going to play with these people. And I think we'd probably have more organic and fun gameplay if people did that.
Now, just to add on to that, I do love the way she plays. I love that she's petty. I love that she's willing to take shots, and I do want to see that a lot in Big Brother. But that being said, I do think Danny is really bad when it comes to strategy. And, you know, I think that she really moves off of emotion. I think a big asset for her is that she's really good at competitions. So she's put in positions to make big moves, but it doesn't feel like she makes the right move strategically for her game, right? I feel like I don't blame her for wanting to go against the veterans when she did. But I feel like she could have waited a little bit. I feel like no one was looking at her. I think that she had an easy coast to at least jury for a while. You know, she was sitting in the middle of two duos. She could have been in the middle of Jeff and Jordan. She could have been in the middle of Rachel and Brendan. She could have had her side alliance with Portia and Kalia in the background. And I mean, obviously, Luan gets brought in at some point as well. There's a lot of people here that Danny is just like literally given a golden ticket just to float to like the end game, you know? So it's like, I love the way she plays because for TV, it's very hilarious. And I love how petty she is and she does not give a damn. But at the same time, I wish And I kind of saw this in All Stars. She just did the right moves that weren't emotionally charged. You know what I'm saying? Like if she used her brain more than her heart, sometimes I feel like she would be a lot better as a player. Like I still think she's a Big Brother legend, no doubt. But you never catch me putting Danny in like my list of like best players never to win, because I honestly think that she ruins her game a lot on her own. But I still love her no matter what. And obviously, this is not the end of Danny. We see a lot of Danny for the rest of the season. I just wanted to talk about her a little bit. But okay, next week. This is in the I don't know if you can call this iconic. This is a legendary week for Big Brother, and not for a good reason. This is Kalia's HOH. You would think this should be such an easy week. Obviously, I forgot to point out the last week. There's no more duo nominations. It's a singles game, and you can nominate whoever you want. So Kalia, first of all, first newbie to win this season, a challenge. I think she's with Danny and her collective, and it's time for a shift. This is obviously, there should be back-to-back veterans leaving this game, but for some reason we make a poor sense of judgment here. We got Kalia. She's like straight up, after the vets tried to kind of entice her to do something different, put up Danny, do something else, we'll keep you safe. She's like, no, Danny kept us safe, so I'm going to put up you guys. She puts up Jeff, and she puts up Rachel. Obviously, Jeff is pissed. Jeff wins a competition, and they're like, okay, well, obviously we should be putting up another veteran, right?
Right.
Lawan is like, I have, Julie, I forgot to say, Julie says that there's going to be a special twist at the end of this week. Instead of just going with the game, for some reason, Kalia and Lawan are both convinced that someone's going to come back in the game with superpowers. So Lawan tells Kalia to nominate him instead so he can leave the game, come back in with special privileges, and they can dominate the season. Now, this is obviously one of the worst moves in Big Brother history, because why are you volunteering yourself to go home? I don't know. I think it was very confusing, but it was just bad. It was bad. Obviously, Lawan goes against Brendan in a return comp, gets destroyed. This is my first official episode of Big Brother, by the way. I just wanted to notify that. Gets destroyed and then goes out the house. I don't know what the hell he was doing. And I was like, what the hell? First of all, I can be angry at Lawan. I'm more angry at Kalia, because Kalia, what are you doing? You obviously want to go against Jeff and Jordan. Rachel already doesn't like you, so go put Jordan up and get out another vet. Why would you put another newbie up? Is beyond me. Very foolish and ridiculous. I want Lawan to come back for a Big Brother season, but we can get into that in a second. How do you guys feel about this mess of a week, guys?
You got it, Cheyenne.
Oh, I guess I kind of want to talk about a few things that led up to this. So one thing is that like a couple of weeks into the season, Kalia goes to talk to Brendan to see like how their little alliance is going since week one. And he basically just flips a switch, starts yelling at her like he's never yelled at anyone before, and is basically calling her a liar, saying that she's floating. He literally looks at her and says that she is playing the worst game ever. And I was like, this is disturbing. Why is Brendan saying this? So in this time, when Kalia is talking to Jeff and Jordan saying, hey, I'm going to nominate Jeff and Rachel so that we have a strong person up for veto so that Rachel can't win. Meanwhile, remember, Rachel has been winning everything. She's won every endurance comp. She's won like 2 HOHs in a veto at this point, maybe. Or Brendan just gave her the veto. But my point is, as they are talking to her in her HOH room, Jeff is being the biggest asshole in the entire world. And Kalia is trying to turn it, and it's just not working. And it got to the point where like I was uncomfortable, because Jeff's literally like, if you put me up, we're done. I'm coming after you. And she's like, no, don't you understand that we're working together, blah, blah, blah. And so for her to then put up Luan. Well, he did volunteer, so I can see why she doesn't want to get another person mad at her.
Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of goes back to my first point where it's like vets entering a game with new people, it's too much of an advantage. They have like this power. It's like if I go to the Walmart and Beyonce shows up, like I'm not going to make her stand behind me. Like she's obviously going to go in front and I would not care. It's almost like that. Terrible like comparison. But I just think that it was really shitty how Kalia was talked to. I think it's really dumb that she still tried to save Grace after he won the veto, and he literally said the same shit. He was like, "I think you're fake. I think that you tried to get me out." And it's like nothing she says. He cuts her off repeatedly, and so it's like if he's not going to respect you when you have power, he's literally never going to respect you, and therefore he's not a good person to work with. And so at that point, you should just put Jordan out. You should just backdoor Jordan because you're wasting time. So that's how I feel about that week.
How about you, Josh?
It's hard to like. I hear it and I agree. It's just I understand the why behind what Kalia did. It doesn't change the fact that it was an awful move and that she shouldn't have done it. I think Kalia and Luan should have sat down with each other and talked, and looked at all the scenarios. I think Luan was seeing these vets who were coming back in for their second time and was like, oh, if I leave the game and then come back in a second time, wink, wink, I'll have the same knowledge and, confidence that these, second time players have, because there is a type of energy that they do have. They've done it before. They're not, blinded by the lights, the cameras. Like they're used to this, and some have even won this game before, have made it far. So like I get Juan's thought process, but to think he was gonna come back in the game with superpowers, it's just comical. And I'm tired of the Black people always being the ones to, take these type of risk in the games. Like the risk I need y'all to take is just, actually just talking to each other. Like simple is better. And I don't think Luan knew that approach necessarily. So that's my thoughts.
Speaking of, what has he done this season?
Luan?
Yes.
Yeah, like he's just in the regulators. He was just kind of there until it was just time to go. Like, he was very anti-vet from the beginning. I think the rest of his alliance mates got taken out by these people, and he was like, I ain't working with these people. So he was just there. Yeah, like there's not a lot to talk about with Luan here. I'm just really, because I think Kalia is actually a really good Big Brother player, first and foremost. I think she has great potential. I just don't know. Like I understand if someone tells you, put me on the block, do it. But it's like, you were beefing with these vets for like a while. Like these people were not looking for you. You and Jeff were beefing at this point. Put his wife up at that point. Like hurt his game. This is why I think Danny is so good at being petty. Because like, all right, if you're gonna take a shot at me, I'm taking a shot at your wife. Since you want to do something petty, like weaken their game at that point. So I don't know. I mean, granted, I think Rachel leaves in that scenario because Rachel wins too many comps, but I don't know.
I want to add to that.
Okay.
I didn't really get Kalia's approach during the veto competition this week, and she was cheering on Jeff, and I thought that was weird, and it made me question, like, is this where they lose? Like, is this where the newbies lose the game? Because I was looking for that moment throughout the season where like they just lose the grip, where they lose the strategy, and that right there, I'm like, Kalia, why are you cheering Jeff on? And then he still talks to you so disrespectfully after all of this. Like, I just, it didn't make any sense to me.
Kalia actually still talks about the treatment of her on her Twitter account. I know she definitely did it. Well, it wasn't in a good light, but she did it during Big Brother 24. Obviously, she was doing it in comparison to Taylor. But, I mean, I still like Kalia. It's just the wrong time, wrong place. But, but, yeah, there you go. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a bad time. You know, kind of puts a spotlight on it.
The
Like
way the
I
way she
wouldn't have
was
known.
look the way she was doing
Oh,
it wasn't the
okay.
best. It was
Let me see the tweets
discrediting.
before I
Yeah, you'll have to
defend.
go look it up. I don't want to, but it was a
I
mess.
hear what you mean because, like, you know, as
Yeah,
another like black person or sharing that same experience, you know, shining some light on it. But then again, like, how were the tweets? I don't even think I remember the tweets so much.
I don't remember it fully. I just remember it was kind of like almost like discrediting one thing, like, oh, you guys support this now, but didn't support me when I was.
Oh, I
It was,
remember this.
it was a mess.
Yeah.
But Klee is very still involved with the Big Brother community, which is
Still
cool.
all right with me.
Yeah, I still like Klee. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to next week.
Wait,
This was. I'll go for it.
that's why Kalia cheering for Jeff. That's one of the weirdest major problems I had with this episode is
Yep.
that Jeff is continuously disrespecting her and being an ugly person. And she the whole time is like, Jeff, I'm on your side. Jeff, we're gonna get this. Jeff, I'm on your side. From beginning to end, she was trying to prove her loyalty to people who literally could not give a shit to her about her and are literally saying, you're my target.
Made no sense. No sense whatsoever.
Disturbed.
It's a big what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for, but like this is just the problems that black players have to go through in Big Brother with their white, you know, counterparts. Like she is just letting you know, like, I'm here for you, and Jeff's like, that's not enough. What more could she have done? You know, to prove that. And yes, she does nominate him, but at the same time, like if this has been someone else, I like she's showing you support. Like it's
yeah. I agree with just kind of Josh. We have another Josh in the chat. Kalia getting to play again would be great. Another needed player for second chances. I agree with you, Josh. I don't know why she wasn't on All Stars, but what are you gonna do? So
you know why.
Yeah. You know why. All right, so we're gonna go for it. I'm sorry. Listen, talk as much as you want. We're good.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up like the major controversy of the season was around like day 10. Kalia told Jeff about how they were saying that Dumbledore from Harry Potter could be gay.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, that's sick. They shouldn't have a gay person in a school. And that was like the first time I saw them fighting. And I was like, this whole time you've been trying to please a bigot? The power that vets have over these people is disturbed and disgusting.
Now, I definitely think it came back to bite him later on because, you know, Jeff, if you don't remember, was like almost like the underling host to Julie Chen for a while. He was hosting all the intros and some reward comps and all that stuff. I think once that resurfaced and people remember, they kind of just like stopped bringing him on for that interviewing spot. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, you know, Jeff is yeah. Like, I remember he actually spoke about you know, cancel culture and all this stuff on the whatever news network he's on or something recently. It was this not nothing to do with the season, but you know, Jeff is a lot.
Definitely the building blocks to it because like
yeah,
it starts here. I don't even want to say it starts here. I'm sure there's some shit in 11 that he's also saying, but you know.
Yeah, let's call up Chima. Let's see what she's got to say.
So next is week 6. This is another week. Danny wins HOH. So the Danny, Kalia, Portia trio. Danny wins. So this is our third week where the vets, technically Danny is a vet, but the vets don't have another comp win. We have her actually. So this is actually interesting. This is giving me Vanessa Russo vibes. She makes a 1-week deal with Brendan and Rachel to keep them safe. Like, look, you keep us safe, we're going to win HOH next week, and we're not going to nominate you. She's like, okay, I'll do that. And she nominates, originally, she puts up, she puts up Adam and Shelly, because they're playing the middle. They're hopping back and forth. Adam, not really. I think Adam's just kind of doing his own thing. He's not really a force in the season at all. But Shelly is very squirrely. People are starting to get onto Shelly's antics. She's going back and forth, snitching and ratting people out, playing both sides. It's kind of hard to read her. So Danny's like, I don't like that. There, and Adam is close to Shelly, so they can go. Adam wins veto, and for some reason, Danny's like, Brunchel, they're right there. They're right there. She does not like Rachel. She does not give a damn about whatever deal they made. And she puts up Brendan. And we're going to see Brendan actually revolving door out this house 5-1. Obviously, Shelly doesn't leave because she has been putting this undying loyalty to Jeff and Jordan up to now, at least. And Jeff and Jordan really trust her. The rest of the Danny collective does not like Brunchel, so obviously they're going to vote out Brendan. He just left. Why would we let him have a second chance? So Brendan wildly blindsided this week. Danny is such a savage here. There's not a lot of people who are willing to go back on their deals after making it. It kind of reminds me of Dan making that horrendous deal with Ollie about letting him control his situation, and it was like too good to be true. But the difference between that and this is that Danny, you're the HOH making this, and you're like, I don't want this deal anymore. So you can go. There's no coming back from this after this week. Danny is going to be the vet's public enemy number one after this. But was this the right move for Danny? Should she have taken the 1 week deal, or should she just been like, okay, whatever? How do we feel about this move here? Josh thinking.
I don't think this was the right move. I think if she was going to target any of the vets, it should have been like a Jeff and Jordan type of situation. Or it should have been Rachel. I don't think Brendan was the one to necessarily take out. Rachel's a lot louder. She's in your face, and she can make a case for herself versus Brendan. I don't think he necessarily respects a lot of people except his wife. I think his wife is the only one he really has the respect for in the house. I'm not necessarily saying he's disrespectful. I'm just saying he doesn't necessarily have the people skills. We see the fight he has with Kalia at one point, and I'm just cringing the entire time while that's happening. So I think Brendan would have been probably better to keep in, because I don't think people would have voted for him in the end to win versus Rachel. So,
how are you, Cheyenne?
Honestly, at this point, I was like sick. I don't know. I feel like Danny kind of lost the plot there. She definitely reacted emotionally, because at this point, why do you want? Well, you know what? I would say it's hard, but the revolving door, we have seen that it happens, that it's easier to vote someone out that's already been out. We saw it with Victor. Can't remember any other instances. So as I'm talking, you know what? I can see how it was an easy choice. Was it the best choice? I don't know. I don't know if Danny was really going to win this season after losing both Dick and Dominic. She didn't have a solid ride or die like the other two vets did, or the other 4 vets did.
Yeah, obviously since her dad left, I think Danny's new ride or die was Kalia. I will say that they spoke a lot of strategy. It's just that I don't know. Danny is just she's an emotional player. It's kind of hard to even talk about her game, because she really just flips on the dime of how she's feeling about you the week, and this is a perfect example where, okay, it's a great opportunity to take a big shot. I know a lot of Big Brother fans, want people to take big shots. So great. But the issue with this is that if your allies aren't going to be pulling their weight and winning competitions as well, it's going to be bad. Obviously, Kalia won the HOH the previous week, so she was hoping that they could do a back and forth almost, but there was no way that was happening. And I'm gonna be honest, in Danny's case, she should have really been targeting all the vets, not just double dipping. So I think they made a deal with Danny this week. Jeff and Jordan did, basically saying, if you don't nominate us, we're going to keep you safe. The same thing that she did with Rachel and Brendan. And I think she just decided to choose the Jeff and Jordan side over Rachel and Brendan, which is why she put up Shelly and Adam. But, we're going to talk about this next week. if you're gonna go, if you're gonna go after the vets, go full cup. Don't go half. Like you need to put up Brendan and Jeff, or if one of them come down, put up Rachel and Jordan. Like if you're gonna piss some of them off, piss all of them off, because they're gonna take a shot at you immediately the moment they get the chance. Winning too many competitions, you have too much of a hold on some of the newbies. You gotta go. But that's how I feel about that.
I feel for the amount of times that she said that she has the gift of gab, that like she should have been better at manipulating people.
Yeah.
Like her occupation is writer, and I definitely feel like she was disconnected from reality in the choices that she was making and who she trusted.
Yeah. So
I didn't I didn't understand why she didn't nominate like a Brendan and a Jordan, And the reason being is if you wanted those two to go against each other, those two duos, you never really gave them the opportunity to, except for record when it was Brendan and Jordan, and then Brendan goes home, but you could have done it again. And I think that would have caused a little more friction between those two duos, because like the first time you had to, but the second time Danielle didn't go that route. And had she did, I definitely think there would have been a little more. That's what I'm looking for. That following week, I don't think it would have just been Danielle going home, is what I'm trying to say. I definitely think there would have been more routes for Danielle had she put more people on the block from the vets. So
yeah, I agree. So the next week is double eviction week. This is also a chaotic week in Big Brother history, in my opinion. Obviously, the first half is very straightforward. We're going to see Jeff win HOH and veto this week. He nominates Kalia and Portia because he's like, all right, well, Danny didn't nominate me, so I'm going to honor my deal, and he puts up her allies instead. We see Jeff win veto though, and he's like, Danny's right there. So instead, he basically does exactly what Danny did the last week to Brendan, and he puts Danny up in Portia's place, and they blindside Danny 3-2. And obviously, this was the start to the chaos. Obviously, Jeff really didn't like Kalia. He still could have went after Kalia. He thought about it, but Danny was winning too many competitions. If you don't take her out here, you're making a great mistake. The second half is when it gets a little wild, because Shelly, big player this season. We haven't been talking to her enough. Very big middle player. She's a strategic floater. She's really just carrying information to both sides. And this is the week. She's a swing vote. This is the week for Shelly to basically make a move and choose what she wants to do. She sides with the vets here. The newbies here. And obviously, Kalia wins HOH, of course. She puts up Rachel and Jeff. And Portia, she wins her veto. Doesn't change anything. And obviously, Jeff and Jordan have been putting in a lot of work with Shelly. So they expect Shelly to vote with them. That does not happen. Shelly betrays Jeff Schroeder and sends him home. He's very bitter, which we're going to see in the jury house later on in the week, and then they get in it. But big blindside on America's favorite player at the time, at least, Jeff Schroeder. Wow! Like I remember Shelly doing this, and I was like, Shelly is here to play. But obviously, this completely ruined her middle persona. I mean, it's not her fault. I would have taken a shot at Jeff instead of Rachel as well, or sitting here talking about that, maybe not. I don't know. How do we feel about Shelly completely blindsiding Jeff, guys? Was this the right move?
I feel like if she had fully considered what the results of voting Jeff out were, which is Jordan hating her forever, then no. But if she thought that everyone was on the same, this is a game mentality, then yeah, it would have been a great move. Ultimately, I think it's really funny that Jeff and Jordan were kind of like, they were clocking that the newbies were basically the sheep to slaughter. And so they thought that no one would ever turn against them like Shelly. And then Shelly said, I actually want to win. And so the betrayal that Jordan felt, and obviously the betrayal Jeff felt, like they took that super personally. And so even if she had gotten to the end, that's 2 jury votes that she would have never gotten. And considering those were 2 of her biggest allies, Yeah, voting out Jeff was a huge mistake, but I loved it.
I'd agree. And the way she did it too, she's like, this stands between me and my family. And does that little thing. I was like, yes, Shelly, let him know. And then he just goes. And then I know we're gonna get to it, but Jordan yelling at Shelly the following week. It's a lot. It's a lot. But getting back to this double, this is probably one of my favorite like weeks of Big Brother. Because Danny's one of my faves, and she has a quote in her speech, and I still quote to this day. She's like, "Absolutely no regrets, only choices." And that's just her last good words, because I'm not a big fan of her All Stars game, and we're not here to talk about that. But in this game, Danny ends her game by saying that in her little speech, and we get Kalia's HOH reign right after.
And I also just wanted to bring up, just because of this, I think production really wanted Jeff win. Looking at the way that the season was structured, I really think they wanted Jeff Schroeder to win. And when we walk into the next week, which is week 8, I think it's kind of blatantly clear how pissed off they were at Shelly for playing her own game. So we go into week 8. Obviously, Portia, it's kind of unfortunate that Danny's allies win HOH back-to-back the week that she leaves. I think it's hilarious. But Portia wins HOH, carrying the momentum of Danny's will after Kalia won HOH. And she's like, okay, I'm going to nominate 2 vets. She was planning on nominating originally. Let me check real quick. She wanted to put a vet. I don't remember the combination. Obviously, it probably would have been like Rachel or Jordan. But this is when it gets crazy. Production throws in everyone's favorite Pandora box. I think this is the last serious Pandora's box that they've done. They did one in Big Brother 14, but it wasn't serious. But they did this one. They offered basically was, if you take it, you can take $5,000 and you can also give someone else $5,000. Portia is not going to turn down $5,000. I wouldn't turn down $5,000. I'm going to take it. Cool. The ramifications of this was that everyone was placed into a duo immediately after, and they have to pick their duos, of course, as last time. Rachel and Jordan pick each other, Adam and Shelly pick each other, and Portia and Kalia pick each other. And this is kind of like where it gets a little weird, because it's like, why would you choose this week after the Jeff blindside to do this? Obviously, they carry through. They play the game, they play the veto because Portia nominates Rachel and Jordan. And confirmed, tell me if I'm wrong about this, because I don't remember. I think this was the competition that it was a comp that Rachel won the previous season. Yes, okay. So they used a competition that Rachel won the previous season, which was Big Brother 12. And Rachel obviously wins it again, uses the veto on them, and then Adam and Shelly are on the block in a vote of 2-1. They kick Shelly right out of there. This is the vengeance for Jeff. Jordan's pissed off at Shelly, obviously, as Josh said, and yelling at her and all this other stuff. I'm going to be honest. I think this is clear, blatant riggery from production. I think Shelly was absolutely robbed. I think she was playing a great game. Do I think she would have won? No, because she couldn't win a competition to save her life. I'm going to be honest with you. So I don't know if she gets to the end. But I think she was playing a masterful strategic game. And, it just really sucks to see someone in such a well put out position go. I don't think Portia was ever going to put Shelly up. I think, production doing this duos twist completely saved Rachel and Jordan, because I think they were pissed that they lost Jeff and Dick in the same season. And I just didn't like it. I don't know. I feel like Shelly is one of the best players never to win Big Brother. We did a live stream on it earlier this year. Or, sorry, it's 2023 now. Earlier last year, we did a ranking on some of the best players never to win. But am I crazy here, guys? Is this rigged, or was this just like her fate? Like, how do we feel about this week?
Josh, you wanted, or...
I mean, I think we might share the same sentiments. I don't think you're crazy. At the time when I was watching it, I didn't think anything of it. Mainly because Rachel was my favorite and I wanted her to win. So anything in her favor, yeah, I'm down with it. But as a full-grown adult and had the time to look and actually rewatch the season and look at the competition, it's kind of hard not to, agree that they kind of rigged it. I don't know if I throw the word robbed with Shelly. I don't know if she was necessarily robbed. Oh no, I'm not on that train yet. But yeah, it was definitely rigged. That's one Big Brother theory I will support. I think Rachel's win had some riggery behind it.
Y'all are silly. Are you being ridiculous? The answer is yes. Just a week and a half ago, we were talking about how Shelly made the worst decision of her game. Why are you surprised that she's out?
The way they did it was crazy.
But the thing is, Big Brother plans these things ahead. There's no way in hell they were like, production.
I don't know.
Bring that twist back.
I don't know.
You don't think they have a bi-weekly schedule?
You
don't think they plan these things ahead?
Listen, I mean, this is Zach Rand saying it, so I don't know how much of credibility he has it, but he went on IG Live before and said that they heard a competition being built. The voice in the ceiling told them to go to the backyard, and then right when they were about to go back, they started deconstructing things and they were building other things, and they ended up doing a whole different competition. So I don't think this is the same production team that erased a day of Big Brother because of a wall yeller. Like nothing surprises me with production anymore. I'm not going to go out there and say it's not possible. I'm not going to say that they did rig it, but I just think it looks a little sketchy. And I do think that they rigged it for Shelly to go home, or at least for Rachel and Jordan not to go home at that. Like, I just think that they were just trying to save those two.
See, personally. I disagree again, because if these players were strategic, Shelly would have chosen Jordan to be her duo. She would have said, Jordan liked her. You're my partner. Yeah, but if she didn't even try. If Shelly had gone to Jordan and said, if we're partners, I can show you I don't want you to go up. I can show you that I still want to work with you. Like, then that would have screwed up anything that you think production would have done. They could have deconstructed that because, like, there was a safety hazard. There's just way too many things that they could have done better for me to believe that production is the reason Shelly went home. Listen. Did they want Rachel to stay? Maybe. But if people have made better decisions, it would not matter.
This is literally the same day. So Jordan's coming off fresh out of being hurt. She's a blindsided her husband after looking out for them all season. Said, F you, I don't like you anymore, Shelly. We're done. And then if Shelly is like, hey, you want to be partners? Jordan would have been like, hell no. It doesn't matter. She would have looked like a damn fool on TV because there's no way in hell. Like, Jordan was down to go home. Eventually we'll get to her the next week. She was down to go home for Rachel, just for Rachel to stay. Like I think Jordan was just checked out. I don't even think she wanted to play. I think she was there for Jeff at that point. Like I don't think. I just have a hard time. Like, it's just too much of a coincidence, Cheyenne. I don't know.
But it's hard for me to believe that you think Shelly is one of the best players to never win, while also thinking there's no way she could have appealed to Jordan in a manner that would have saved her.
I don't. There's not a lot of people who are willing to look. Shelly does not have the mist. I'm not saying you need a good social game. I don't think she has the mist. I just think she has a good strategic mind. That's all I think. I don't think she has the best social game. I think she was positioned to at least go like Final Four. Like, I think she could have made it there at least. Like,
with who?
I mean,
she's been fighting for Jordan and Jeff, and then she betrayed Jeff.
But look, she did. Kalia and Portia solid. They would have looked out for her. Adam Posh seemed to like her a lot, and he wasn't going to take her out. If this week did not happen, either Rachel or Jordan goes. And obviously, if they do the same competition, Rachel stays, Jordan leaves, and it's Rachel against the world at that point. Rachel's going to be desperate. She doesn't like Kalia. She would have been like, Portia, let's work together. It wouldn't have worked. Like Rachel would have had to win another HOH. I mean, what she does technically the next week, so maybe something could happen. But I don't think Shelly leaves in front of when Kalia's in the game, Jordan and Rachel are in the game. And you think someone's going to waste a week on Shelly, Portia, and Adam, who can't win Jack? Like, I just don't. They're not comp threats, so I don't know. It's up for debate.
No. I think that Kalia was in a good spot. Kalia and Portia were going to save each other over Jordan or Rachel or Shelly. Shelly hasn't been really talking to the other house at all. So I do feel like there were other ways to go about it. I think that Rachel's way more open-minded than Shelly. She would have actually worked with Kalia. She offered her a deal when Kalia was HOH. She wrote for Portia. She could have turned on those waterworks, did a hymn of loyalty. There's just so many ways that I could see Rachel one-upping Shelly if it was Shelly and Rachel. And I don't think Shelly's that great of a player.
That's fair. Listen, all good stuff. It's like it's there's all hypotheticals at the end of the day, though, which is hilarious. Shelly's gone regardless. Listen, that Pandora's box is just a little too convenient for me. I don't know. It was just random, but anyway, we have another double eviction to get into, and it's funny because it's another Pandora's box week as well. Wow, and it's during Rachel's HOH. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not a serious Pandora's box. Just to say, she gets stuck in a room with Jesse Grotters getting workout advice while everyone else goes on a shopping spree. It was funny, but this is a straightforward week. Rachel's like, oh, I'm getting revenge for my husband. I'm tired of Kalia being in his house. And it's Portia and Kalia on the block. Adam wins veto. He's not going to use it. He's just trying to survive at this point, So, they send Kalia packing 2-1. There's honestly not a lot to speak with this week. Very straightforward. I think Rachel had an objective and she executed it. That, it just came down to the veto at that point. But do we have anything we want to say about Kalia's game or this week in general?
I think powerful people go home in the final 5, and Kalia was a powerful player this season. And hear me out. The reason I say this is she faced a lot of controversy. She faced a lot of just people against her. Jeff being one of the biggest ones. Brendan, a lot of white men just talking down to her. And I think for her to last as long as she did in this time frame of Big Brother is something not to go unnoticed. Like, this is pretty impressive for a player of Kalia's, caliber at this time. So I definitely think she had a lot to show. I would have loved to see Kalia on All Stars 2. We know why she didn't come back, obviously, for probably multiple reasons. But she definitely played I think a really good game. I also want to note she sent Jeff out, and Jeff has gone out twice in Big Brother at the hands of, I think, a gay man and a Black woman, and just knowing that history behind all of that and everything he's said on the show, I think it's just pretty cool to add that to Kalia's, little resume of things she's done. So,
okay. How about you, Cheyenne? Any closing words for Kalia?
Oh, for Kalia. Not really. I think once again better choices could have been made, but I think from her personality, honestly, it's so hard to say this. She would have done better if she was white, and it's just sad to say that, but would she have been a better player? Probably not. I just think that her gameplay would have gotten her farther if she was a different complexion, unfortunately. But the breaks are the breaks, and she wasn't able to have like a deeper connection to people who may have come from a different background than her. Maybe they didn't see something in her that they could relate to. They weren't like, hey, Kalia looks like my sister. Kalia doesn't look like my niece. Kalia doesn't look like my cousin, So unfortunately, I do think that played a part in it, because everything on paper says that Kalia would be a great social player. She won 2 HOHs. She should have been able to solidify a pretty good alliance based on like what she's done. But unfortunately, the perspective of her has always been like a fake floater.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But I did say this was a double. This is another straightforward round, to be honest. It just takes us to final 3. Sorry. One of the most random weeks for Adam Pock to win an HOH, but Adam, the rocker guy who loves what's the cop show that he loves watching?
He likes 91210, not the cop show. He talks about Tory spelling every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's Tori Spelly's the one who took them on the shopping spree the week before. I forgot to point that out. But Adam Pock wins HOH. He does not put Rachel up. He puts up Portia and Jordan up. It comes down to the veto at that point. Portia wins her veto, and they send Jordan home. I think Jordan was just ready to leave, but it's also Portia was closer to Rachel than Jordan, so it's like, there you have it. I actually see in the chat. I'm glad someone said this. Cool dream. Jordan says on Cody's podcast that she did not initially want to come back, but she only came back for Jeff's opportunity. So that is very fun to point out. But yes, we lose Jordan here. And Jordan's placements are pretty impressive. She has a win under her belt, and she has 4th place. I do think she has a fun personality, which gets people not to target her since she's so bubbly and people enjoy being around her. But with that being said, it's crazy how someone's average placements and can win a season and can be in the upper echelon with these Big Brother players, but still not be a good Big Brother player. I don't think Jordan is the best out there, especially with winners. She's often put towards the bottom. I think Jordan's was really good in the line structures, and if she gets lucky, like she did in her first season, she'll grab a win. But she's always the type of player to always make it far. This season, she really didn't do much other than be, Jeff's wife. Or actually, no, they weren't even married at this time, so they're just dating. But I just don't. There's just not a lot here with Jordan. I just hate to say that. I think she's just kind of just like a personality at this point, and I mean that's okay. But do we have any closing words for Jordan? She was this close to being a 2-time winner, guys. How do we feel about that?
I definitely feel like Jordan not really wanting to be there and literally only going for Jeff kind of explains why she showed her ass to Shelly so hard. Like, because I did feel like she was saying some very out of pocket things. She was acting like super unsportsmanlike, and to know that it was because she was there for Jeff, I'm like, you're more of a shitty person than I thought. So peace out, Jordan. Hope to see you never, even though I do multiple times on Big Brother.
How about you, Josh?
I'd probably kind of echo it. I didn't really care for her too much. Just because she was just kind of there, just kind of a bubbly personality for that side of America, like the Jeff side of America. She wasn't someone that was catered for me to like, and it was received. So I wasn't really too sad to see her go. It would have been kind of cool to see her get maybe 3rd or even 2nd. It probably would have helped, her status as a Big Brother player. She might have been taken a little more serious, but I can't really take her too serious as a game player, honestly.
No.
Speaking of, Adam is so meaningless and useless that whenever we say his name, I think of season 9. I have to remind myself on Big Brother 13, he's the guy who screamed twice when he was coming in and leaving, and also wanted to suck on Evil Dick's coattails. And it's like, I'm trying to remind myself that these are 2 different people. And honestly, I do wish that someone else had been in the final 3, but not Jordan.
Maybe Kalia. I mean, she was the next best.
Yes, that'd be a way better final 3. Rachel, Portia, and Kalia.
Listen. Well, I mean, I don't need Portia back, but yeah. I wish I could find a clip of Adam Pock saying, "I'll be back for All Stars too."
I can do a demonstration for you. I'll be back for All Stars. How he sounds.
Oh man.
What's crazy is that.
Oh, go ahead, Cheyenne.
Oh, sorry. It is crazy that Adam only got slightly more attractive throughout the Big Brother journey. Like, cutting off his beard was kind of a lifesaver.
Okay.
I'm like,
yeah. All right.
Okay. Sorry. Whoa.
Oh, okay. okay, Adam.
So y'all out here thinking people ugly just off that?
Cheyenne is an Adam fan. Shout out. Shout out.
Whoa. Let's not say that. I didn't say that.
Just to speed run through the rest of the season real quick, because we are pushing pretty long. Real quick, final three. Rachel wins part 1, Portia wins part 2, Rachel wins part 3. Rachel and Portia, we didn't speak about much. Even though they were not consistently on the same side this season, they stayed relatively close, and I think they were very friendly with each other this season. So I do think Rachel did favor Portia to the point where, like, Adam's an easy win, but like, I'm going to sit next to Portia instead, So she takes Portia to the end. We look at this jury questioning. It's kind of chaotic, not the best, but we see a very close vote of 4-3, and we see Rachel Riley as our winner of Big Brother 13, my first Big Brother winner. It's wild that Portia was 1 vote away from winning the season, but she was. But we have Rachel, one of the most polarizing and fun winners, not only in Big Brother, but just in the CBS sphere of players, especially Amazing Race. She was hilarious her last season with her sister. The fact that they got her sister in the season is still crazy to this day. She's about to be on the Traders. I'm sure I would love to see Rachel back on Big Brother. I wanted to see her in All Stars too, but she was having a child, so she couldn't. But Rachel is always going to be a Big Brother legend, and no matter what, we really did not speak much on the plenty of beefs she had this season, but she is very quotable, talks a lot of trash in her exit goodbye messages. She's just a mess, but I love her for it, and I think everyone else does, so closing thoughts about Rachel, guys, because we spoke about Portia and Adam, especially Adam, just closing out, but how do you feel about Rachel here?
Oh, honestly, I feel like Rachel is a great representation of the season because it's like people cared about what people did. So she won a lot of competitions and they were all snakes. They were all rude ass, snake ass bitches. And Rachel Riley's a big one. So I feel like she was the ultimate head on the snake that truly represented this season. Portia would have won if people actually cared about being nice and if they had gotten veterans out sooner. But speaking of, I would also like to say, I know I'm like probably this is the third time I'm saying this, but what did Portia and Kalia do differently that made Portia the final 2 and Kalia not?
I think Portia from the beginning was willing to work with the vets, where Kalia was very anti-vets with Danny. And I don't think we really saw Portia take a really big stand until Danny left and she was kind of forced to. I think she was really like Shelly, almost kind of just sitting in the middle, but like not strategically. I think people just liked Portia more. And that's interesting to say. I mean, I think Clea was a lot more upfront about who she did not mess with, where Portia was just kind of like vibey. She reminds me of a girl that you see at a music festival. She's just there to vibe and hang, right? Even though, as I said, like Portia and Rachel were never on the same side, she liked her. Like, they were friends for a majority of the season. I think she was just a friendly person to people, where I think Kalia played a lot harder. She's a lot more threatening strategically. She won more competitions. Kalia was just a threat to win the season, and Portia, even though she was 1 win away, wasn't, so I think that's also a factor.
2 things. One, I definitely think Portia's first 3 weeks definitely helped her solidify those relationships, because all she had to do was just talk to people. She didn't have to do a lot of backstabbing or anything. I definitely think that helped her in a week like this where she was against Kalia. That being said, I do think Kalia, we say she was a winner threat and stuff, but those vets didn't like her. And if this was the same jury, are these people voting for Kalia to win in the end? I know Jeff isn't. I know Jordan isn't. I know Brendan isn't. I don't think Rachel is, and that's already 4 votes. So
that's crazy.
That's
Wow.
why I wanted to bring up too is that Kalia wasn't against the vets. Like Portia and her were in the same rooms when the newbies were saying they were against the vets, but at no point did any of these hosts actively get a vet out, except for like Dominic and Danny. So it's
Want to
like,
know something crazy? And this is to unfortunately kind of talk down to Kalia. If she just waited 1 week and didn't take Luan out, the vets, her side actually would have had the majority in the jury, because now that Josh has read that out, it's 4-3 regardless. So the vets are really picking the winners. If they just waited 1 week and they got Luan in instead of one of the vets, then the newbies would have chose who would have won. That's crazy to think about. I didn't even remotely even consider that, but that's wild.
I think
yeah.
on paper, she looks a winner, and that's because she is. Like, I would have voted for her to win. I think in a 9-person jury, this argument could probably have some more legs on.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are just a couple of reasons why I disagree with the production rigging theory, because the newbies had every opportunity and chance to strategize and keep their work together and actually do shit together. And at every point they said, I feel more trust in that person that I saw on TV. I'm going to go with that.
It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, the newbies had everything that should have worked well for them, and they kind of flopped. Like, Dick left early. Danny came to their side. I think really this season just came down to competition wins. If you really look at it, I think if it wasn't for the comp wins, it reminds me of, obviously it's not the same, but 17, very top heavy. It could have had a good back and forth, but it came down to the comp wins. And we kind of see that here. If one side is just winning comps every week, it's either Rachel winning or Danny winning, or even Kalia or Jeff winning. Like, it's really just like 4 people dominating these comps. And we kind of see the same thing with Big Brother 14, with people like Ian and Frank just winning everything. And it's not a lot. Ian, Danielle, just like when there's these seasons where only a few people are winning everything, it's just very one-sided in some aspects. But the season still gave
it didn't need to be.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be.
Yeah.
Who was truly on Rachel's side? They could have pulled in Rachel.
Jordan and Brendan. That's about it.
But they were also like, Jordan and Jeff also wanted her gone. At some point, at so many points, Rachel was just by herself, and she could have been easily used. She just wants someone to speak to her nice and like cuddle. And so I just
but there you go. So closing questions, or question, to be honest. We have 2. So one, what is the legacy of Big Brother 13? It's been obviously a very long time. I was still in middle school, I think, when this season came out, which is crazy to think about. But how do we feel about Big Brother in 2023 now, since this is officially the second day of 2023? So how do we feel about Big Brother 13 all in all?
I was reading a tweet today, actually, that was talking about like Big Brother is just not a rewatchable show. And then a few people under the tweet were talking about Big Brother 13 and how they can rewatch that season. I think it's an easy season to watch. I think it's easy to follow. They throw in a bunch of stupid twists, a couple of like notable Big Brother players to kind of get the gist of what the show is about. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good season.
How about you, Cheyenne?
Yeah, for me, it's like mid-tier. It has its fun moments. It has very frustrating moments. I wouldn't say it's super high in strategic ratings, but it was definitely high on like in entertainment. Like there was a lot of personalities. Well, actually, it felt like there was one personality, Rachel Riley. So it was a great Rachel Riley production.
Shout out to Danny. Danny gave us I'm going to say that. But
she was a great
she was in Venice, yeah. But there you go. And lastly, if we had to rank Big Brother seasons off the top of your head, is this season in the top, middle, or bottom half of Big Brother? Where do we put it? Top tier, middle tier, or low tier?
I think smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
It's like, honestly, there's so many boring seasons of Big Brother that I'm gonna say it's mid to high tier.
Cool.
Because I don't hate everyone. I would just prefer not to see most of them again.
All right, and I'm gonna agree with you guys. I'm gonna put it in the middle. I would have to really reassess my whole list, but just like thinking off the top of my middle for sure. But yeah,
maybe top 10.
interesting. Listen, we're gonna rank all these seasons at the end of this whole series. I'm very curious to see how we feel, but there you go, guys. This is our review for Big Brother 13. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I know it's been a couple of days. We had the holidays, we took a break, but I'm so happy that everyone pulled up in the chat still. I saw a lot of the regulars and some new people, so shout out to y'all. But if you haven't already and you are interested, please check out the Silent Podcast social media pages, our YouTube. We're very active over here right now, but also in our audio platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that fun stuff. And if you like what you hear, rate it 5 stars, but only 5. If it's 4, keep it. Wait until you hear something you like. But every subscription, follow, and all that stuff counts, and we loved it so much. If you're not already, check out G Worthy's Survivor Fiji rewatch on Silent Podcast right now. It's a great series to watch if you love Survivor content. It's the off season. Also, if you're interested, we got Survivor New York coverage that just started out here with Davey and Mark, and then also Naomi will be doing extra interviews, and we just have a lot of stuff going on. Challenge stuff with Carrie and Katie. We have a lot. So make sure to check everything out. Real quick, we're going to start doing our closing. So Josh, as usual, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, this will not be the last time we do content for this series. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Poison Me Joshy on Twitter. Hey, you little piss baby. I'm not really going anywhere, just tweeting and keeping up, and yeah, I'll be back at some point. So yeah.
All right, how about you, Cheyenne?
All right. So yeah, thank you for having me on. It was really nice seeing the comments on the chat, even though I was kind of lagging. I appreciate everyone who spelled my name right. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. There are no A's in Cheyenne. But yeah, you can catch me on Twitter. I tweet occasionally, but it's not like super whatever. It's cool. Thanks, Isaac.
We'll be seeing Cheyenne very soon as well. Oh, and thank you for Joseph for pulling this up. Davey and Mark will be on at 8:15 tonight to talk about the episode of Big Brother. I said Big Brother, Survivor New York. So check that out. And as usual, if you haven't already, you can follow me at 8Ball Bangers on all platforms. I'm usually tweeting, doing all this stuff. If you want to see some more content from me, me and Hannah Chada, we did a review of SZA's album SOS. Fun time, so check that out. Obviously, you can check any other reviews that we have for the Big Brother review series. I'm trying to decide next week if we're going to continue on. I have 3 avenues, so you guys let me know what you want. We can either go back and do 15, because I'm not sure if I can confirm this interview, so we can go back and do Big Brother 15. We can go with the original plan and go with our sidebar season, so start with Big Brother Over the Top and Celebrity Big Brother. Or we can do one more main season and do Big Brother 12. So make sure you tag me on Twitter. Let me know what you want. But until next week, next Monday, as usual, for another review. It's been a good one. Have a good night. Bye.